From across time and space and throughout the multiverse, listen as multiple generations of geeks come together to discuss the iconic characters, events, and franchises that make up the very fabric of pop culture as we know it. Let Your Geek Side Show presents Then and Now. Hey guys, this is Kitty.
And I'm Chris.
And we are coming to you from the Sideshow Studios in Southern California. This week we are diving into the mind of madness and taking a look behind one of the most twisted smiles in pop culture. Though it's hard to see the tears of a clown, fans across generations have clamored for more explanation into the mysteries of Batman's greatest foe. From his own cinematic solo outing to starring in one of the most infamous comic books of all time, all he wants to do is watch the world burn and have a laugh while doing it. This is the Joker, Then and Now. All right, we're here with the Joker. I mean, you're not the Joker. You want to introduce yourself?
I could be the Joker. We don't know yet. No. No. My name's Chris. I work at Sideshow.
Excellent. Thank you for joining me. You were very excited to come on.
Oh, yeah. And any time to talk about the Joker.
Excellent. Well, that is exactly what we're here to do today. Yeah. So before we get started, because I've just come back from New York Comic Con, haven't had a chance to see the movie yet. You've seen the movie.
Yeah. It's intense. It can't really be described. It's might be the most unsettling film I've ever seen.
All right.
Yeah, just no happiness at all.
Ooh. Okay.
Yeah. No laughs. No.
No laughs. Well, just so you guys know, there may or may not be spoilers for the film in this podcast, as well as for recent comic books. We will be discussing some DC comics that are being currently published. And of course, there may be spoilers for some iconic storylines that you've had plenty of time to read. So we will get right into it. So the Joker, I mean, he almost needs no introduction. That face, that smile, even the color scheme, the green, the white, and the red, that is incredibly iconic in pop culture.
And the purple. You can't.
Yes.
You got to have the jacket.
The purple. And sometimes the little touch of orange, you know?
A little bit, yeah.
A little bit of orange.
He's as iconic, if not more, in this day and age than Batman.
Yeah.
It's you walk around out there, you see just as many people with the Batman shirts as you do the Joker. He's almost superseded him in popularity, which is weird.
Well, you yourself have a Joker shirt on.
I have a Joker shirt on. I mean, there's Batman there as well.
But, okay, now I see Batman.
He's hiding at the bottom. You get the back of him instead of the full Joker face.
Overshadowed by the Joker.
Because, I mean, the face that's what stands out. Batman, dark, brooding, fantastic. Love him. But it's the Joker.
Yeah. And even in the appearances of the characters, as we're getting into it, they're almost the complete antithesis of each other. The Joker's white face and big smile immediately draws your eye to him, whereas Batman, you get the white in the glimpse of the eyes, depending on who's drawn the cowl and if he has the whited out eyes. But he is almost that less visible, and the Joker is in your face, immediately present, and almost overwhelming to see.
Yeah, but that's what works so well. It's because they are so yin and yang.
Yes,
they have to have each other. There can't be one without the other. No other Batman villain. No other mainstream Batman villain has that many colors and that is that bright and out there.
Yeah.
Riddler's got a bunch of green, and then you can go way back to like Polka Dot Man and Crazy Quilt, but it's...
I personally like Kite Man.
Like Calendar Man. But he's just, I mean, icon is just the best word. Mm-hmm. And he makes Batman, I think at least these days. Like nowadays, the hero's only as good as the villain, and there's not a better villain than the Joker. Yeah.
Now, interestingly enough, when he was originally created, and he was created by Bill Finger, Bob Kane, and Jerry Robinson, I don't know if you know this or not, he was originally planned to be killed in his first outing, which is almost kind of interesting when you think then these characters who have stuck through. Harley Quinn was also supposed to be a one-off joke character when she appeared in the animated series, but he was supposed to be killed because Bill Finger was concerned that if Batman had recurring villains, he would appear ineffective as a hero, because if a hero has the same villains keep popping up, he's failed to stop them. But that almost seems to be one of the core elements of the Joker and Batman's relationship, is that Batman hasn't stopped him, won't stop him, and when Batman does stop him, Batman almost stops himself.
Yeah. He one can't exist without the other.
Yeah.
Which is kind of, I mean, they kind of touched on that with Dark Knight Returns. Mm-hmm. It's, Batman's done, Joker goes away.
Yeah.
But God, can you imagine a Batman without the Joker? If they would have just killed him off back then.
Yeah, and oh my goodness. Yeah, if that idea had stuck with superheroes, that if you have arch rivals that keep appearing, then you're not an effective hero, instead of this especially having one character who just knows all of that the hero's intimate secrets, knows how to manipulate them. You get some of the most compelling stories out of that.
Well, I think you need that because otherwise, if you don't have the reoccurring bad guys and you just have Batman beating up muggers, every month, and it's like eventually that gets old.
Yeah.
So one time or another, he will stop all the muggings in Gotham.
Yeah.
And so, but you need the Joker to come in and inspire the crazy and get more people to. Man, I want to be like that guy. It's not the people I want around, but it makes for good storytelling.
Yeah. There was even a series, and the creative team escapes me now, but the Joker had managed to trick Mr. Mxyzptlk into giving up 99.99% of his reality-altering powers to the Joker. That 0.01% is like a key part of the story. But Superman can't defeat Batman's greatest foe combined with the powers of one of his most bizarre foes until he gets the Joker to kill Batman and kill Batman repeatedly. And then the Joker realizes at some point if he kills Batman again, he's going to lose all of his powers because he doesn't have that final percent of Mxyzptlk's powers that would allow him to completely alter reality. And so the power is still kind of tied in with his own selfish wants. And his want is for Batman to keep being there. And so if he totally destroyed Batman, he would have no reason to have his powers or be who he was. So it's going to destroy him. And Superman's like, I got you. You can't do this to the universe, and you have to keep Batman alive, and you have to free all of us, because if you destroy Batman, you destroy yourself. Which, it's interesting that even stories pick up on that they're like, this is like, if he kills him with magic powers, he's going to destroy himself as well.
And he can't, the Joker knows that he has to exist in order to keep that going. That's the whole point of the Batman Who Laughs. He's got the thing in his heart so that when he dies, the gas is released, and if Batman actually kills him, then Batman becomes the Joker.
Yeah.
The things he fears most.
That was from the Dark Knight's Metal series, right?
Snyder and Capullo, which is...
They've been killing it on Batman for quite some time.
They're my favorite.
Yeah. No, so personally, I think there's three characters in pop culture that everybody wants to do their own take on, whether they're a writer, an artist, or an actor. And those are Hamlet from Shakespeare and Batman and the Joker. I think everybody, because even with the latest round of casting for the Batman film, and it's going to be Robert Pattinson, everyone is invested in who portrays this version of the character. And so even with the Joker, we've had so many iconic depictions of him. Almost every version of him somehow becomes iconic, and I think it does continue in that Batman mythos. Do you have a personal favorite person, either an artist rendition or like an actor who has been the Joker?
It's Mark Hamill.
Okay.
Mark Hamill for both. The look of the animated series and the voice. Like you can't read, or at least I can't read the Joker without hearing his voice in my head.
Yeah.
And the same goes with Kevin Conroy. Like it's for Batman, Joker, that's it.
Okay. Yeah. I would be inclined to agree. Mark Hamill is my favorite Joker as well. But there's also something really for the live action. I think I think that Heath Ledger's takes it for live action for me. But I have not seen, because I did just get back from New York Comic Con, have not seen the Joaquin Phoenix film yet. Do you want to speak a little bit to that depiction?
Joaquin Phoenix was amazing as the Joker, but it's such a unique take on the character. Mm-hmm. It's less about the Joker himself and more about the person who eventually becomes him. Okay. So you can see some characteristics and some traits forming, but you can't really compare it to anything that's been done before. Okay. Because it's so dark and just disturbing. And now that version doesn't actually have a Batman he's squaring off against. No.
That's more of the idea of the Joker rather than the Joker we know.
It takes place in Gotham, and there's Thomas Wayne's in it, and that's about it. There's some references to what we all know for the Batman origins, but not very many.
Okay, interesting.
So I don't want to give anything away because it's fun when they show up, but Heath Ledger on screen. Honestly, every time someone does it, Jack Nicholson gets cast. I'm like, well, Cesar Romero was so good, you can't do that. And Jack Nicholson completely redoes it. And you're just like, well, no one's ever going to top him. And then Heath Ledger, and everyone's like, no, nonsense. And then he does it, and it's just like, well, clearly no one's ever beat that.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
Yeah, I can't say Joaquin Phoenix topped Heath Ledger, but it's
a departure enough.
Yeah.
It's the idea of the Joker rather than
he made it his own. So it's which was
good.
great. It wasn't just a carbon copy of something that we've seen before.
Excellent. I think that's one of the important things is that more so than like he's a character, but the Joker has become an idea, which I think is what allows for people to continually put their own spin on it while keeping the same. Like you keep the image of him, the colors, you keep them the same, but there's those ideas that it's like, what do you boil him down to get that character, and the fact that they would make a solo film that is, it's not necessarily an origin story in the way that most superhero films do origin stories, but I mean, I'll have to see it to see how it adds to the character's kind of mythos in pop culture. But I think that's really fascinating.
They changed the origin, at least from what most people go with. Like there's no Vatican chemicals in this,
chemicals,
which is it's great because like that may have been the origin for Dark Knight with Heath Ledger, but we don't know. Like, and he kept changing his origin inside that film, which worked so well with that. So it's nice because even if you go back to Mad Love with the animated, like the Joker, starts off telling Harley about how his dad used to abuse him.
Oh my god, that whole story is one of like the ones that sticks with me the most for the Jokers.
But at the end, Batman's like, "Oh, he told you that one. Well, what about the drunk uncle or the mom who did this?" So like he's constantly changing his own origin. So it is kind of nice to think about. Like there is no one true way that he became the way that he is.
Yeah, and now since you talked about Mad Love a little bit, DC has a new imprint called Black Label. Well, it's not terribly new. I mean, people are probably familiar at least with Batman Damned and the long-awaited Wonder Woman Historia. But the latest slate of Black Label books really, really seem to be nailing down on the Joker and on Harley. There is the upcoming, I forget what it's called, but it is like Joker, Harley, something about insanity. And then there's the Harleen series, and then there's the Batman White Knight and Curse of the White Knight series. And I think with Harleen, I know you haven't read it yet, and I won't give away too much, but it's very interesting because Stepan Sajic, I hope I'm saying that name right. I've never once pronounced it right. His artwork, and fans might know him from Sunstone. He's done some guest stuff for Rat Queens, but his art is very sensual in a way, and so it's very interesting to see the seduction of Harley, because it is from her side of the story, and we did cover Harley in a previous That and Now podcast, but the way we see the Joker is like very, very sensual almost in his seduction of an innocent, or whether or not she's actually as innocent as we think to turn into Harley Quinn. But there are then those moments of where he's like so monstrous and nightmarish. So it is really interesting because usually there's enough of a strangeness about the Joker that you don't think of him as an alluring figure, but it's written and drawn by Sajic, who I think this is it's a fantastic and interesting take on seeing him as a more like he was desirable to her at some point, and before it becomes the mad love, almost abusive relationship. But that one's only had one issue so far, and I look forward to seeing where that goes. But it is interesting to see an artist who's known for more of their sensual comics to take on the Joker and Harley.
It's on my coffee table right now. It's just I was hoping to get it read this weekend, but it's been busy.
All right, well, you go see that, or you go read that, and I'll go see the Joker. But I think going back to kind of I know that in the Joker movie, his name is Arthur Fleck, and then I just mentioned the Curse of the White Knight series. There's also like a strange fascination with trying to puzzle out who is the man, who is the Joker.
Yeah.
And so like obvious, like the names that are coming to me are Joker, and then Jack Napier, and
the classic. Yeah.
Yeah, and then Arthur Fleck. And so like, what do you think of the people's desire? Do you prefer him to be more mysterious and just say, we don't know his true origin, it's always changing, or like, are you one of the fans who kind of wants to puzzle out his identity and have a definite answer?
I like the mystery because you get to form it all in your head. Mm-hmm. Now the Jack Napier one is fun because it started with the Tim Burton Batman movie. Like I'm pretty certain that was the first time Napier got introduced.
Yes, I think Sean Gordon Murphy had mentioned that he was referencing that in the White Knight series.
Yeah, but it was great and it's fun and it gives you some identity. But I was just reading something. I haven't read this either, so I could be completely talking completely wrong. But the 3 Joker storyline.
I didn't read the Three Jokers either.
I was kind of against it because it seemed like someone was just trying to find a cop out to explain everything. Then I learned it's not canon. It doesn't go along with everything else.
Oh, okay.
But one of them, I'm sorry, Scott Snyder just said that recently, that Three Jokers is not canon. But one of the theories is that he's actually been using the Lazarus Pit longer than Ra's al Ghul.
Oh, wow.
And so the Joker's actually immortal.
Huh.
And so that kind of, when I heard that, immediately made me want to go out and buy it. So I'm probably going to do that this week. But it's just the idea that he's been around all along, and kind of like a Ra's al Ghul or Victor Vandal Savage. And he's just been playing his way through time.
Interesting.
And he's just now he's been bored. He's been this and that, but now he's got a plaything with Batman. And so he's just having fun.
Okay, that's fascinating. That's a fascinating take on it. Yeah, especially because it lends itself to that idea that Joker and Batman are now in an endless tussle with one another.
And it also kind of helps explain with like all the massive beatings that the Joker's taken. Like no human could withstand all that.
Yeah.
He should have died a long time ago just from injuries alone.
That's true. So it's interesting because one of the points in the White Knight and Curse of the White Knight series, which Curse of is the sequel series,
right?
Is that the Joker says that if he were sane, he would probably do more good for Gotham than Batman. And that, I always love a good, like, are the good guys doing as much good as they think they're doing? And I know that the what if Superman went evil has been a little overplayed. But this idea that it's like, man, who's the one who dressed up as a bat and started beating people up and like if his villains keep coming back, is he doing as much as good as he could for Gotham? And so that was a really interesting explanation or exploration because Batman actually forces some medication down the Joker's throat and then he takes on the Jack Napier name and he starts dealing with the politics of Gotham to prove that Batman's not as good for the city as people think.
He turned them all against him.
Yes.
Even Nightwing and Batgirl, at least in the first one. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's interesting to see because ultimately the Joker, whether or not he's terrifying, which he is, there's always an underlying charisma. And so whether it's in this Jeppen Sajic artwork where he's a little more sensual and charismatic or just a persuasive talker, I mean, people are usually afraid of clowns, and especially we see that with like Pennywise, and like you don't want to talk to the guy who looks like that because they've got the fake smile on, and you don't know why they're smiling like that. But the Joker is a very persuasive guy, and he's very smart. I mean, no one I think ever thinks he's not smart, but like you would probably underestimate the guy whose persona is the clown. But he's a dastardly smooth talker.
Oh yeah. Well, there's the theories that he's not insane. He's super sane, which to the point where he's just bored with life and he's just keeps going around. Now White Knight goes against that and shows him no, he isn't sane. Here's all the meds. Let's fix you up.
Yeah, he goes sane in that one.
He did that interpretation of him. I feel was fantastic because he was doing good and he was pointing out all the flaws in what Batman does, like mainly with just like the insurance thing of having to have the Batman fund so that to protect the city. Yeah, and it's Batman does a lot of bad. All the heroes do. It's everyone's big issue with Man of Steel is like they destroyed a city. Yeah, killed millions of people. But Zod didn't do that. It was Superman throwing him through a building. And it goes through the same thing with Batman and the Joker. The lengths that Batman will go through to get this one guy, destroy this, break every law there is in between, and then let him live at the end. But, so that he can come back into it all again. Yeah, like it's a really weird dichotomy, and the point where maybe Joker kind of is a little bit more of the good guy in these situations.
Yeah, and I mean, of course, every villain is the hero in their own story. Right. Now, this villain is also the villain in many character stories. He's been essential in the formative experiences of characters like Jason Todd. And I say formative, the murder of Jason Todd, even though that was voted on by the fans of the comics. And then with Barbara Gordon and her paralysis. Yeah. Now that is a very controversial comic nowadays. It's also revered as one of the greatest comics.
It's weird how that works.
Yeah, it's very strange how that works. But I I mean, we would be remiss not to mention the Killing Joke in a capacity. I know I don't want to go too far into it because I think a lot of people do know the story, but to see that the Joker is the instrument through which many of the people in Batman's lives have these formative experiences. I mean, we've even got death. Okay, I always get them mixed up because death in the family is Jason Todd, but death of the family is the face masks.
Yes.
Oh God, I hate that one.
But sometimes you have to take the Joker and like he's already kind of a scary character. Depending on who's drawing him, you get a face and the nose.
Yeah.
But like, how can you make him creepier for this day and age? You cut his face off and then just kind of staple it back on, tie it on with a belt.
Yeah.
Loved it.
And it lends itself to the fact that like the face he wears is a facade, and whether or not he's actually skin bleached with the chemicals and whatnot, like that smile, that identity is the Joker is an idea. It's a set of symbols. It's a smile on the face of a fish, or on a pair of clattering teeth, or on the victims of the people who experience his particular brand of torture, which I think is fascinating. And so I want to jump way back. So we see him now as mostly an unrepentant psychopath, or the leaning is towards more the dark Joker. People really like that.
Right. And
he was introduced as such, but there was a period in which the Comics Code Authority, aka the No Fun Ever Society, no, I'm kidding. They believed that these comics were corrupting the youth, and I don't know, maybe that narrative is still. People believe that this media is damaging to the readers or the viewers or whoever's experiencing it because they kind of idolize the characters. So there is the split perception, and we kind of get it in the campy 60s as well,
right,
where the Joker did have a period of just being a fun-loving trickster. Do you have any specific thoughts on?
I mean, it was great for the time.
Yeah.
It was at that time, like everyone was more fun-loving. And that's, it was more, you'd see Batman tied up to a giant piano with surrounded by other giant random musical instruments. Like it provided an escape from reality that people still need. That's why we read these books. It's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, however long it takes you to read to escape reality, and those things are fun. And sometimes it's better to finish a book with a smile on your face because of this goofy thing that the Joker did than to finish the book like, man, he just murdered 1,000 people in this one. That's kind of depressing.
Yeah.
So everything has its own place. I don't think that would work these days, but they have brought back the Batman 66 title, at least for a while. I don't know if it's still going on.
I don't think it is, but I do remember
it was there for a while, and so people still, like, the audience is still there for it. People still want to be happy from reading something that's campy and silly.
Yeah, and that is very specifically set in a certain time moment. But as the 70s and then 80s, I think the 80s was kind of the Joker renaissance, because not only did we have the Killing Joke, which was Alan Moore and Brian Boland. We also had Arkham Asylum, A Serious House on Serious Earth, and we got the Grant Morrison with Dave McKean's artwork, and that is, I think those remain two of the most unique and iconic depictions of the character who has had so many faces over the years.
Yeah, Arkham was admittedly, that was a tough one for me to read when I was younger, but mainly because of the artwork. It's not a traditional looking book that I had to. I remember I owned it, and then I don't think I actually read it until years later when I was a little bit more. Just because I bought it because of the cover, and I opened it up like, this doesn't look like a comic book, and it's
almost
it.
Very painterly pages.
Yeah.
They're not traditional panels. Some of them it's like full spreads.
And for a 12-year-old who's been reading your normal Batman comics, it was too weird, too left of center. But that's when things started getting deep and dark into the mind of the Joker, as opposed to just what he does. It's why he does it, and that's when things got scary.
Yeah, and I think one of the ultimate scariest parts of that is when you boil it down. His obsession with Batman. Some of the things he does just because.
Yeah,
and there's like trying to get under and find out, like, well, who was the man who became Joker before he fell in the acid, like. Some of that stuff you can't know. It just, you have to pick up from where it is presented, and that's, I mean, that adds to the mystique, but it's also very frightening, I think.
What I love about his obsession with him is he's the kid constantly knocking on the door asking if Batman can come out to play. But he doesn't, like, how many storylines are there where the Joker's trying to find out who Batman is? Like, there's not that many. There's been some where it's been like, of course I know who you are. It's not that hard to figure. Like White Knight, I believe they did that.
Yeah.
It was like, I've had it figured out for years, but it doesn't matter because he doesn't want to play with Bruce Wayne. He never goes to kidnap him.
Yeah.
Rarely goes, I should say. Nah. But he always just wants Batman. Like he wants his plaything. He wants his toy. I think it's the psychosis of having to have, like, he can't be him without that.
Yeah, and I think that that distinction is where you get the strength of the hero and the villain and how many stories you can do with them, because Batman has a very specific coda of what has happened to him to make him Batman. I mean, one of my favorite personal DC Comics universes and storylines is the DC Bombshells, and in the Bombshells, Batwoman saves the Waynes and the parents don't die, and Batman doesn't become Batman. Ultimately, he does very, very later when he joins the war effort, like at the end of the series, and it's just like a kind of cameo thing. But he doesn't become Batman because his parents are well and alive and he has a nice family, and you don't get that. The requirements were not met to form Batman, but the Joker does exist in this universe, and I think the mystery of you have to have the solidity of knowing who Batman is, so you know that he's your hero, versus the mystery of the Joker and going, I don't really know who he is, but I know his motivations. Because if you knew for sure the both of them, I think the storytelling would be extremely restrained in that manner.
It can be. They did it once with the Flashpoint, where it was Bruce that was murdered instead of the parents, and so Thomas Wayne goes on to become Batman, and Martha Wayne becomes the Joker.
I think that's one of the coolest.
Oh, it was fantastic.
Twists.
But with that one, like, you can see how it made more sense. And, like, I can't imagine losing a child, but even more so, I can't imagine if I did, I'm going to become a psychopath and just
try to kill your spouse.
Yeah, so it lends itself to, I mean, I guess more so reality than anything else.
Yeah,
but that's because there is a defined or definite, just like, here's point A, here's how it began, and then just goes from there. Yeah,
but even still, it keeps the Joker as an idea. That when Batman rises up, the Joker has to
That's a valid point.
meet him in whatever form. And so the idea of the Joker could be Martha Wayne, even though it is the Joker. Whatever name is underneath that face. Yeah, and that's why there's still interest in him, and that's why DC continues to publish comics, even where he's the star.
Yeah.
The Joker and his motivations are about as complex as they come with regard to comic book adversaries. It is impossible to imagine him without Batman on the other side of his countless schemes, proving just how deeply he is ingrained in the life of one of the most iconic heroes. Many writers, artists, and actors have left their mark on the Joker and how he is portrayed. He's been a puckish prankster and a sadistic psychopath with nuanced personality traits in between, giving fans a burning desire to know all of his deepest secrets. While we may never truly wipe away the makeup or the smile, the Joker remains a keystone character in the monolith of modern pop culture. Thank you for joining us. This has been The Joker, Then and Now. Do you enjoy listening to Then and Now? We are proud to bring you pop culture content completely ad-free, but that doesn't mean we don't need your support to help keep us going. Please take a moment to leave a 5-star review on iTunes, Spotify, or your favorite podcasting platform and help spread the word about our podcast. We welcome fan feedback. Email us at podcasts@sideshow.com with your thoughts and suggestions for how we can make our shows even better. Plus, tune in for our full network of pop culture podcasts. See if your fan favorites make the cut in the Geek Culture Countdown, a bi-weekly podcast featuring pop culture top 10 lists. Hear exclusive interviews with celebrities and pop culture industry leaders as they let their Geek Side show in Look Who Showed Up. Join comedian Jeff May and his special guests as they discuss anything and everything in Sideshow's Sideshow. Then get all the latest pop culture news with our daily briefing, a 2-minute breakdown of the biggest geek headlines perfect for your Alexa or Google News briefings. We wouldn't exist without your continued support. Thank you for listening, and don't forget to let your geek side show.